What a frustrating draw. It's finished 0-0 versus Arsenal at the Etihad. And Man City's record against the Big Six this season has been so poor. Man City's record against Liverpool and Arsenal, in particular, in this incredible Premier League title race that we're talking about. A three-horse race, a legitimate three-horse race going into April and May. We've never really seen it in the Premier League before. And as a City fan who wants to win the Premier League, of course, I can sit there and say we've not beaten Liverpool home or away. We've not beaten Arsenal home or away. That isn't good. I'm sorry. Now, obviously, Man City can go on and win the Premier League with the quality we've got in the squad. I still believe in where we are in terms of our form this season. I think we're a little bit underrated. To still be in 3 competitions is unbelievable. But Arsenal are showing more. Liverpool, especially against Brighton, are showing more. So that's where I have to talk about, because the game was a little bit lifeless. I think it's a massive comment on where Arsenal are as a club. It really is. They went to the Etihad and they said, we're going to match Man City man for man. That's what it felt like at points. It felt like Declan Rice was covering a lot of the space that Kovacic and De Bruyne was operating in. It felt like Saliba and Gabriel had a handle on Erling Haaland. What a difference it made compared to how Arsenal got absolutely obliterated in a very small period of time in the same game, in the corresponding game last season. Let's be completely real, Arsenal got smashed. Maybe Arsenal fans would sit there and say, well, we were unlucky with injuries, which is a very valid point. Because obviously, if Rob Holding's playing against Erling Haaland, he is going to get bullied. He's not at that level. But Saliba and Gabriel are. They're world-class centre-backs, I think. I think they're a world-class centre-back partnership at the very least. So Arsenal have gone to the Etihad and they've matched Man City. Last season, they got decimated. They got smashed. It was embarrassing. It was. Let's be real. It was embarrassing last season of how they fell away. And now they've shown marked improvement. They've shown that they've grown as a side, that they went to the Etihad. I'm sure they were nervous, or I'm sure they were concerned about City's home record. City have now failed to score in a home game for the first time since 2021. That's because of Arsenal. They got the best defence in Europe. David Raya has been incredible. I thought he's very, very good in the game. We'll talk about all the players, and obviously make sure you subscribe if you're new as well. But we have to be real and say Arsenal have done their job. They've not lost to Man City. They've not given any points to Man City. No gain to Man City in that sense. They've not given Man City points on Arsenal. So Arsenal have done their job. And as a Man City fan, I'm a little bit frustrated. I think it's a little bit flat. I think we're very, very unlucky with injuries. We're not the only side. I think Gareth Southgate's ruined this game. I think he really has, by playing players. And there's obviously, Ake got injured as well. I don't know how much international football he played. But the game felt a little bit flat. It's a shame that it fell after an international break that I don't really think should exist in March of all times. So it's on some level, maybe I'm being selfish. You have to let me know in the comments down below. On some level, as a selfish football fan, I want cinema, I want drama, I want excitement in football. And it's a shame that this 3-horse Premier League title race, which is amazingly exciting, and now I'll be watching every Liverpool and Arsenal game expectantly, hoping for drop points. But it's a shame, I think it's a real shame that this is the biggest set-piece moment in the Premier League calendar. Man City, Arsenal, look what it helped decide last season, for example. And this season, there's been a couple of draws between Liverpool and Man City. There's been a couple of draws between City and Arsenal, and then a loss as well, it wasn't a good game. I know Arsenal won it, it was a great result, but it wasn't a good game. So on a surface level review of the game, it was flat, in my opinion, and it's a shame it wasn't a beautiful game for the neutral at the very least. But I'm not saying Arsenal part of the bus. But let's just talk about Arsenal, where I thought they were absolutely fantastic. They soaked up pressure. They didn't have 10 men behind the ball in a kind of negative way. They went up and pressed in a very organised way. They're very, very good at pressing, and it never felt like City had too much space in midfield, too much time on the ball. It was very similar to maybe when Liverpool have arrived with Jurgen Klopp and done a very similar job on Man City. And I remember Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Man United, very, very good at kind of sitting there with the limited side that he did have in terms of maybe form or confidence, and getting Rashford to hit City on the break. And let's be real, the game's biggest opportunity came to Arsenal. The ball gets whipped across. I think it was Saka whips it across into Jesus, who doesn't get in a good position for a striker to score that. You know for a fact Erling Haaland would have scored that. For example, as an example of a striker that knows exactly where to be. And that's where Gabriel Jesus has got issues wanting to be a world-class player, at least recognised as such. It's hard. You have to get around the defender. You have to get around the right back and be in that right position at the right time. And he wasn't in the right position at the right time, in my opinion. Maybe that's a little bit harsh, but that's just how I see it. But Arsenal put themselves in a beautiful position to nick that 1-0 in a very similar fashion to how they nicked it 1-0 at the Emirates. They isolated City. They took a couple of big moments to try and nick it 1-0 or even 2-0, and they got there and they nearly did that. Now they'll be gutted if they don't win the Premier League this season. Arsenal, they'll be absolutely gutted that maybe they didn't win this game, which would have given them the points to go above Liverpool, I think. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below so far about the Arsenal perspective. But ultimately, if you go away to the Etihad with the record that is going on at Man City in the last few years, the record that likes of Rodri have got in terms of what this Man City winning side are, it's absolutely special. It's absolutely unique. Let's talk about Man City. The makeshift back four ultimately has kept a clean sheet against one of the highest scoring sides away from home in this calendar year in Europe. This Arsenal side are breaking all sorts of records for the amount of goals that they have scored in the last kind of couple of months. They've been incredible. They've been unlocked since poor results at the start of the year against Fulham, against West Ham. And Man City did hold a good line. Kept a few chances at bay for Arsenal. Ruben Diaz was good. Akanji was good, in my opinion. Gvardiol, underrated as well. And you have to throw in Stefan Ortega. Edison's injured. Second choice keeper in these kind of games can always be an issue. It really can. The high pressure moments for a second choice keeper, you don't want. If you could choose to play Ortega in any game, it's not going to be against Arsenal at home, is it? And I think he was absolutely superb as well. Rodri's keeping the ball ticking really nicely as well. Bernardo Silva was fantastic. Phil Foden, isolated in my opinion. I didn't agree with his role. He was kind of coming in from the left wing. I think maybe Guardiola thought he was going to get isolated in midfield. Thought he might get bullied by the power of maybe Declan Rice potentially. But I don't see it that way. I think Phil Foden should have started instead of Gvardiol, and maybe you start Jeremy Doku. I know it's a bit of a risk. He loses the ball a lot, but maybe it's something like that. But to sacrifice Foden for Kovacic, for me, didn't make sense. Kovacic had one good shot in the game, nearly scored, but I feel like that's a Kovacic narrative that he nearly gets there. It nearly looks good, and it doesn't quite work. He wasn't a bad player today, but he never felt like he was there to win the game. I think Kovacic was brought in to mellow out what was happening on the pitch and kind of drown out Arsenal's noise. And I think both sides counteracted each other in a similar way Jorginho did for Arsenal in the same way. I have to talk about Erling Haaland. It's a disappointing performance for Erling Haaland. It really is. When that ball comes across him, it's bobbling along the floor and he kind of misses the ball entirely. There's no amount of goals. You could score 1 million goals a season. It doesn't matter. You could be Romario. You could be Rivaldo. I'd rather him not score technically gifted goals and just do the basics. And there's a couple of times now that ultimately I can sit here and say he scored 52 goals and 53 last season. Unbelievable. Treble winning striker. I still want more. I still want more from Erling Haaland. And I hope he doesn't believe his own hype too early. And again, this is very, very strange criticism for someone who I think is the second best striker in the world at such a young age. I think he's the best striker in the Premier League by a country mile. I still think his link-up play has to be better. I still think those moments where a ball's bobbling and he doesn't quite connect with it, or a header every now and then he doesn't quite connect with it, and that is frustrating as a City fan. It is frustrating because you want him to be scoring these kind of goals that I don't think he has quite in the same way that he did last season. So that's where it would be frustrating. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Where does it leave us in the Premier League title race? I'll be discussing the Premier League title race tomorrow morning, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. But it's a huge result for the Liverpool fans of the world, for the Arsenal fans of the world. It's probably more frustrating for City. 0-0 at home, currently third, behind goal difference as well in terms of Liverpool, and not being able to beat Arsenal. Based on what happened last season, it says actually that Arsenal have improved massively in the last 12 months. Declan Rice is a huge part of that. He didn't look out of place at all, did he? He could have been playing at the Etihad in this game if he'd signed for City. And you wonder how big that transfer would have been for Man City, and it might have stopped Arsenal being as good as they clearly are right now. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you very, very soon.